You are now watching the Amazing Mets pregame show with your hosts, Rob and CP.
Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets! Let's go Mets!
What is up, Mets fans? Welcome back to the Amazing Mets pregame show right here on both of our channels and, of course, on X. Hopefully, you Mets fans are having a really good Monday, but we do got some interesting news to talk about, and unfortunately, a great Met death that we would actually, give condolences to as well. Well, Chris, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. It's been a busy day for the New York Mets here. For those of you all who've been hard at work and not been following the latest moves, there's been a couple of latest, I guess, breaking news type moves with the New York Mets even before game time. So it's going to be an eventful pregame to talk about. If you want to catch up on those breaking news tidbits for our New York Mets, I posted a couple of shorts on my YouTube channel so you all can get caught up. But other than that, like I said, we'll talk about it. Start a new winning streak today. Obviously, there's a pitching change. It's not going to be Paul Blackburn anymore, like we were talking about last night in the post game and on the roundtable. It's going to be Tylor Megill. We'll talk about it, of course. Blackburn, as of recent, we found out after hours of quietness that he suffered a setback in terms of having a sore back while he was running yesterday in preparation for a start. So, yeah, let's talk about it. Let's get into it.
Yeah, exactly. We'll definitely get into the Blackburn situation, and the Mets did acquire and activate and is on the roster in a guy that we'll talk about in a second. But condolences to Mets legend Ed Kranepool, who passed away today. Again, I didn't see him play, but again, he was one of the legends. He is one of the one that goes in the history books with the New York Mets. And that's unfortunate, but you know what? It's you be with this team enough. If you're an older Met fan, you know all about Ed Kranepool. Some of you might even watched him play with the New York Mets. So condolences to him and his family. So the New York Mets, obviously, Chris brought it up very briefly about Tylor Megill pitching today and not Blackburn. And everybody, look, I actually got home from work, took a nap. I knew Tylor Megill was pitching, but didn't know exactly what happened to Blackburn. I thought they were just gonna, wait another day or two to, I guess, put Mania in this series. That's what I was thinking, or whichever way they were gonna do it. And then, I just asked Chris because I didn't even take a chance to look at my phone. So, Paul Blackburn, lower back injury or discomfort in the back injury when he was working out, and now it's definitely going to be Megill. Now, we'd all rather have Blackburn on the mound than Tylor Megill. I'm assuming most people would believe that, but I don't know how much you were going to get from Blackburn today. You might get a start similar to what Tylor Megill would give us today. And so, the unfortunate thing is it would have been nice to see Blackburn back. Who knows when he's going to come back? But Tylor Megill is going to be in our rotation for the foreseeable future. And Chris, I know we were really going in deep when it came to who's going to pitch after Blackburn. Now it's obvious that Tylor Megill they're gonna let him go as long as he possibly can, and it's going to be status quo when it comes to the bullpen.
Yeah, it changes the outlook a little bit now, right? And we don't know the full extent of this Paul Blackburn setback. Obviously, I think Carlos Mendoza said in his pregame interview that they will monitor Paul Blackburn. He's for sure not going to pitch in this series, but they will monitor him. And then if it doesn't get better in the next couple of days, right, in terms of how he's feeling, he'll go back to New York for imaging. Being that the Mets obviously have an off day, and then they're going to Philadelphia as well for the series after this one. But no Paul Blackburn for sure in this series. But yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. And honestly, I've seen a lot of people, whether it's in the chat or whether it's on my X account, that would actually rather have Tylor Megill than Paul Blackburn on the mound at this point as well. Mostly due to the fact that Tylor Megill just throws harder and they trust a pitcher that throws harder rather than a 92 to 93 for Paul Blackburn. But it is what it is. It doesn't really matter. Both these guys are back into the rotation arms anyways. I, for one, was looking forward to not having to watch Tylor Megill pitch again because it just seems like the same thing, different start for Tylor Megill. He has the stuff, he has the arsenal, he has that new splitter where he's been very successful with this season, but he just hasn't put two and two together to be consistent enough to stick in the back end of this rotation. So again, Aaron, not a six-man rotation at this point because Paul Blackburn is out of the question so far, and he is still, I guess, technically on the IL. They never really reactivated him from the IL, so that is the current status with that. But yeah, you got to ride in terms of this start, Tylor Megill, as long as possible to get him into deep into the game. Are we expecting that out of Tylor Megill? No, honestly, I know you probably aren't, and I'm not either. But all we can expect right now is 5 quality innings, and we're not asking for perfection, right, or even close to it. We're asking for competitiveness and keeping your team in the ball game, just like every single other starter. That is our bar for starters. And Tylor Megill, if he's going to be a starter, we're going to hold him to the same degree. In terms of that sort of production. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's unfortunate. Like I said, I was wanting to see Paul Blackburn, even if he would have been on an innings limit or a pitch limit or pitch count limit, but it is what it is at the end of the day. And this is what we're faced with. It's crunch time. It's 19 games left of the season, right? Or is it 18 now? My math isn't, it doesn't matter. How
19.
19 games left in the season. It's crunch time. Injuries happen. The organization is feeling, I guess, stress, right, in terms of these physical injuries to these players. There's probably a lot of guys that we talked about on the roundtable yesterday that are dealing with injuries that we don't really know about, but they can't really go on an IL stint because the Mets need to win ball games. And it's unfortunate to say, but they don't have that luxury right now. Talk about Alvarez, Nimmo, everyone's wondering if they're playing injured. If you're on the field, you're held to the same degree as the rest of them. So that's really it at this point. Again, like I've been saying, especially when it was end of August, early September, I said this team gets no more excuses. There's no more excuses with this team. So I'm not going to provide them any. Go out there, win. Obviously, yesterday, like I said, I wasn't too bummed out about the loss. We know that the Braves gained that game back up on the Mets, and they're tied for the third wild card spot. But you got a job to do, got to do it well, and that starts today against the Blue Jay squad.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not really sure why people want to say that they don't really rather have Megill over Blackburn. I like the Blackburn veteran. I like that Blackburn could throw better than expected more often than not than Tylor Megill. I know the final time we seen him, he wasn't pitching well, and the game before that didn't pitch well. But I feel like that he is a guy that, like, I guess you can call him a trusted veteran. Not gonna wow you, not gonna throw as hard as Tylor Megill, but he keeps the batters off balance for the most part with his, slow, methodical pitches, even though, he doesn't throw hard. We know that. But I think there's a misconception about throwing hard and actual pitching. Like, there's two different concepts. There's two different ways to think about this. We always talk about guys who just are throwers who are on the mound, and guys that are actually really good at pitching are actually pitchers. Right? They know how to pitch, not just throw the ball as hard as you can, as many times as you can, and eventually throw a breaking ball or an off-speed pitch and go about your business and come out of the game, and that's it. Blackburn's a pitcher. Tylor Megill tries to be a pitcher, but he's still a guy that is a thrower. He hasn't figured out that concept of using all his pitches in the right way. And that's the problem that we have with Tylor Megill. And that's why, when he did have the opportunity to pitch opening day for the first time, and he was throwing 99 and, 98, 99, and his pitches were working, it was good. But he's not that pitcher anymore. So, it's going to be interesting knowing that Tylor Megill is going to be the guy for at least, I'm guessing, hopefully not too long, but I'm going to go on the situation where Tylor Megill is probably going to be in this rotation for the rest of the year. I don't think Blackburn's going to come back. I think there's something wrong there, and if they're going to let him go for imaging, I think it's a little bit more. They could have found this out at any moment. They're probably testing him every single day. I think that we're probably not going to see Blackburn again this year unless he's good to go in the bullpen in the postseason if the Mets make it. So it sucks, but you know what? We got to all get behind Tylor Megill and root our asses off for Tylor Megill, because he's going to be a big part of this over the next 19 games. We talked about this. This season is going to come down to 7 against the Phillies and 3 against the Braves, and a couple of games after that, other than that, from other teams. That's what it is. It's going to be the 19 games. And doesn't matter who's there. Just Chris just said it. It does not matter who is called upon, who is on the mound, what the lineup looks like, even though I'm not very excited about this lineup today, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But it's do or die at this moment. If you don't do your job, this is going to be a problem. You're going to be the problem. You're going to get criticized, right? We're going to talk about this core again until the cows come home. It's going to be a huge problem because if we don't make the playoffs, and I'm not trying to be Mr. Negative in the future, but if we don't make the playoffs, there's a few names that we're going to really bitch and moan about that probably help cause the Mets not making the playoffs. So right now, it's a weird couple of kind of news today, and with the DJ Stewart the other day, but it's a next man up mentality. DJ Stewart is here. We can't do nothing about it. Hopefully he helps us, right? As we talked about when we first did our intro, Eddie Alvarez was acquired by the Mets yesterday for cash considerations. He is on the roster now. He is a guy, if you remember him from the Marlins, he can play second, he can play third, he can play some corner outfield. So he's a super utility guy like Jeff McNeil. Not as good by far for Jeff McNeil. He's a good defensive player, no bat. So he's going to be a guy that probably comes in late in games for defensive purposes. Got some speed, so he will be a pinch runner. He's basically the Pablo Reyes replacement. That's basically what he is. Just that he could play more positions and probably play better than Pablo Reyes. So, Chris, I mean, balls to the wall.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a great point in terms of the synopsis there in Eddie Alvarez. I'm not really expecting too much contributions or meaningful contributions for him. He's got a decent glove, can't hit, worth a lick. This is the same Eddie Alvarez that is an Olympic speed skater, by the way, for anyone that is wondering. He was a Miami Marlin, LA Dodger, obviously recently in AAA with the Boston Red Sox. If you all are curious, if you care at all what he posted with the Boston Red Sox in AAA, 114 games, 247 batting average, 811 OPS, and that speed came into play with the 18 stolen bases in those 114 games. But here's the kicker, right? And like I said, I posted 2 YouTube shorts on my account. If you want to go there, show some support, hit the thumbs up on those as well. That'd be definitely appreciated. But here's the kicker about this Eddie Alvarez call-up and the DFA of Pablo Reyes. Since Eddie Alvarez was not in the organization by August 31st, that was the deadline for him to be in the organization to be postseason eligible. That I just said it, he's not postseason eligible for the New York Mets. So if you put 2 and 2 together, right, if the Mets do make the playoffs, they're going to be going in with 2 middle infielders, Lindor and Jose Iglesias. So by process of elimination, this situation right now, we might only see Eddie Alvarez for a week. And we actually might see Luis Angel Acuna.
Yep.
I'm actually very confident we do see Luis Angel Acuna within the next week. And I forgot exactly what the actual cutoff date in September is for them to be postseason eligible for the guys that are already on the 40-man roster at this point. But again, right, it would be unfathomable in terms of the unpreparedness if you go into a postseason only having 2 postseason eligible middle infielders. If something happens, like knock on wood here, obviously, I don't want to put this energy out there, right? As the Mets are competing for meaningful games, but if something happens, Lord forbid, to Jose Iglesias or Francisco Lindor in the injury category, the Mets are screwed. So I really don't think that David Stearns and this organization are going to put themselves in that situation. And I think that Luis Angel Acuna, who really is, I believe, the only option at this point on the 40-man roster to call up and be postseason eligible, might actually get that nod. So again, it's the later stages. If not, is the minor league season over officially, Rob? Do you know?
I think they have like another week or so.
Yeah, so exactly. This is the perfect storm of what I'm saying to end that minor league season. And then you still have that week to beat the cutoff date where you can call up Luis Angel Acuna to be playoff eligible. Of course, he'll be taking he's already on the 40-man roster, which is a great thing. He started the season off on the 40-man roster, probably for this purpose. And then Eddie Alvarez is going to be a short-stinted Met, and he's going to be out of here with the DFA within the next week as well. So again, I think this is a short-term move, if I had to guess, because I just cannot imagine a world where you are competing for a playoff spot and you somehow make it to the playoffs and you only have two middle infielders on your roster, which is why I wanted Luis Angel Acuna to be caught up or called up in place of DJ Stewart before for this whole backup middle infield sort of debacle that the Mets are in right now. But I think they're just buying themselves some more time, that extra week to keep him down there and then bring him up when it's actually necessary, like 100% necessary. So that's my 2 cents. We'll see if it plays out that way.
Yeah, it's starting to look like that at that point. All the conversations we had last night over the last couple of shows, and the heated debates that we had on the roundtable yesterday was about roster moves and specifically Acuna, and Stewart and all that. It's more and more likely now that Acuna is going to come up, right? When the minor league season is over, there's no point in keeping Acuna not on this team. So, and it only makes sense because you're right. They're one injury away up the middle. Now, if you lose Lindor, it's kind of a real big problem, regardless of if Acuna can fill in, do a serviceable job. He's not going to be Lindor. At least we don't think so. But if Jose Iglesias, we know about his age. We don't know if he can hold up. We assume that he can hold up. But remember, he's not been playing. He's been playing every day since McNeil injury, but he has not been playing prior to that every single day. So I agree with you 100% what you said on the roundtable. I know Hector didn't agree with you about Iglesias when it came to him playing every day and seeing if he can hold up. We don't know that. We assume that he could, but we don't know. He didn't have the opportunity to play last year. So he's playing every day now that he hasn't done in 2 years. So we don't know, and he's 2 years older. So we really don't know if he can handle the grind of the rest of the season. I know it's only 19 games, and trust me, he's one of those guys that would want to play every day. And, if he's healthy, he will be out there, but we just don't know if his body can handle it. The rigors of everyday playing, the travel, even though it is only 20, 22 games when he was actually filling in for Jeff McNeil now. So listen, the fact is, if Luis Angel Acuna don't come up, I'm not sure, as much as I trust David Stearns, I'm not sure what David Stearns is doing. Now, the decision isn't made yet. This is probably about a week away, right? This is probably sometime around the next Philly series when we're talking about the possibility of Luis Angel Acuna coming up. It's going to be very interesting to look at or to watch, depending on what the Mets do, because a week from now the Mets can be 4 games out, right? I mean, that can be a possibility. As quickly as things went in our favor, it can go backwards as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see, because it is a problem. That's why the DJ Stewart call up makes no sense. I'd rather have Acuna up here now, just because it gives you another middle infielder, and that's what we need. And regardless of what Acuna can do with the bat, that's not even the point. And I think the whole conversation I wouldn't call it an argument, but disagreement with me and Hector yesterday on the roundtable wasn't just about the at bat of DJ Stewart and who they should have called up before because of DJ. Besides DJ Stewart, it was the fact that they're putting themselves behind the 8 ball as a full roster, because Iglesias doesn't go down. Yeah, you might survive for one day, but what are you going to do the next couple of days, the next week, if you're going to leave DJ Stewart on this roster? So it's going to be very interesting over this next week to see what they're going to do, because Acuna deserves to be up here. He's played well enough. DJ Stewart doesn't belong here. Eddie Alvarez doesn't belong here. Look, the reason why Eddie Alvarez was acquired was because of what we're talking about with Acuna. They're probably saying, all right, let's bring in a veteran here, somebody that can play multiple positions, has no bat, but we have that security blanket up the middle. I think they're just preparing Acuna minor league season to be over. That's exactly what I'm thinking. And I thought the same thing you were thinking when you were talking about it.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add on to that. I think we're in agreement there. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and nitpick in terms of bringing Acuna up a week early or week late at this point. DJ Stewart is DJ Stewart. DJ Stewart's still going to be on this roster even if/when Acuna does come up. Now, obviously, this is still speculation. The Mets can come out of left field and then promote somebody else, right? Or they can just roll with the two guys. I mean, like I said, I don't think that's possible. Like, I don't think that logistically that makes sense at all. You're setting yourself up for extreme failure if that's the case. But yeah, I mean, DJ Stewart's still going to be on the roster. But I think that we agree, especially on the logistics of why Acuna should be up. We've stuck to that point, but it is what it is at this point. I'm worried about today and the Mets winning a game today. That's it.
Yep, absolutely. So again, Tylor Megill is pitching today, not Blackburn. Lower back issue, not off the IL. If it doesn't work out that he gets a little bit better, he's going to go for more. He's going to go for imaging on that back. Hopefully, it's all good news, and we just misses the series, and will be a part of this rotation for at least the last 16. Excuse me, the last 16 games of the season. But the lineup, when I saw this lineup and I'm typing it up, I'm like, I don't understand the top four. I'm a little confused by this because we know the struggles of Pete Alonso and Brandon Nimmo. Putting them back to back. Now I do like putting Vientos in the 2-hole, even though we all agree that Iglesias should be the guy. I like Vientos in that 2-hole. He actually played well when they do put him in the 2-hole for a little while. So I like the 1-2. But what is the point of having Lindor and Vientos 1-2 when you got two of your most struggling players, best players, supposedly on this team, back to back? I think that's just not good. I don't think it makes sense at all. Now, I don't like questioning the lineup because Mendoza has done a really good job with the lineups when he's mixing and matching and switching the lineup around. But this makes no sense for two guys that are Nimmo's been struggling for 2 months. Alonso still can't get out of his own way. If Lindor and Vientos get on base, I don't trust the 3 and 4 hitters to bring them in. I don't know what your thoughts are, Chris, but I don't like it at all.
I don't have a problem with it. I don't. I don't have any problem with this. I mean, they're either going to hit or they're not. I mean, it doesn't really matter if you're switching Nimmo. For me, it doesn't matter if Nimmo and Vientos are switched. I get your thought process and where you're coming from with that, especially sort of separating Nimmo and Alonso in that order. But at the end of the day, like I said, these guys are going to be here. They're going to be hitting in the top of the order in general. And, at this point, I mean, if teams really want to pitch around Mark Vientos, right, they're going to do so anyways. I feel like that's the case. So I agree with you, but I also don't want to go back on the word that I said, and I really do feel the sentiment even still, despite these guys struggling. Any combination of a lineup that Mendoza throws out there, I'm going to be fine with. This is just another case. Like I said, we're going to ride and die with these guys, right? The 2024 New York Mets were set up so that the core can finally step up. The other guys have been coming in and doing a great job of lifting this core and kind of carrying them a little bit for the most part outside of Francisco Lindor. But I'm talking about Nimmo. I'm talking about Pete Alonso primarily. And if those guys don't step up, right, then what more can we really ask for? What more can we really say? At this point, it's do or die time. So I don't really have a problem with it. Is that kind of what? Sorry, I was kind of researching some more stuff here while you were talking. Is that kind of your gripe with this lineup in terms of splitting having Mark Vientos split Nimmo and Alonso?
Well, if we're trying to win a ball game, and I know, look, we know we're not going very far if Nimmo and Alonso aren't at least doing a little bit better than what they're currently doing. But I just feel like going into a series, you just lost your last game. You can't afford to have a 2-3 game losing streak. There has been no signs from Nimmo or Alonso that they've been breaking out. Now, this can just be Mendoza saying, listen, guys, I got confidence in you. I'm putting you guys back to back, do the goddamn job. He could have sat him down and listen, I'm putting you 3 and 4 tonight. You got to get the job done. I mean, at the end of the day, Nimmo is one of your highest RBI guys, even though Nimmo hasn't had a lot of RBIs over the last 2 months. But Alonso, Nimmo, and Lindor have been, or even Vientos have been your best 4 RBI guys. So let's stack them instead of moving Vientos 5th and Marte 2nd or wherever else you wanted to put 2nd. I just feel like they're playing with fire, even though I kind of get why he's stacking Nimmo and Alonso, because look, these are the guys you're going to war with. Like, you're not sitting Alonso, you're not sitting Nimmo in a playoff series or even in the biggest games of the year, which is the last 19 games of the season. So I would have liked Nimmo out, because even Alonso has batted fifth this year when he's been struggling. Nimmo, they've been putting him first, second, third, and nowhere else. At one point, I think you got to drop Nimmo to the 5 spot and maybe give a guy like Iglesias, who's been clutch for us, putting them up there with Vientos batting third. Like, I would have put Lindor, Lindor, Iglesias, Vientos, and probably Martinez, and then go Alonso. Oh, actually, I wouldn't even do that, because again, it's gonna be hard not to stack Nimmo and Alonso either way I put it. But I'd rather have them down the order a little bit more, just because I want to get the better guys up on top of the lineup early on in the ball game. I guess that kind of is a little bit confusing, because either way, you're gonna have Nimmo and Alonso somewhere near each other. I just don't like it at the top of the order, because again, I know Lindor can do a good job getting on base. Yes, Vientos can hit the ball over the wall. Maybe that's the idea. Maybe them two can do damage, and you pray for the best with Nimmo and Alonso. But I think he's playing with fire here, even though I understand what he's trying to do.
Yeah, honestly, I'm kind of inclined to take the stance, especially this is a great comment for me that D just put in the chat in terms of the progression of Brandon Nimmo and him looking a little bit more comfortable at the plate,
Yeah.
even though the results haven't been there. And he talked about that, Brandon Nimmo, that is, in his post-game press conference, saying that he feels a little bit more relaxed and he knows that he's not getting the consistent results in terms of him, I guess, raising his batting average and just getting those balls to see the green in the outfield, but he's just putting better swings on the ball. A little bit unlucky with the 2 home runs that went foul. Obviously hit a screamer right up the middle to the center fielder that was caught right at the guy, but he's been putting better contact on the baseball. So like I said, for me, I agree. Honestly, I would be not opposed to seeing Jose Iglesias in the 2 spot. I think we talked about that on the roundtable last night as well. We kind of floated Starling Marte, even though he hasn't been ripping the cover off the baseball. He's been doing better than Brandon Nimmo has, right? Consistently, this whole entire season. But even when he came off the IL, but at this point, for me, when I look at this lineup, I see no confidence in JD Martinez, right? I mean, Jose Iglesias is your 5th batter right behind Pete Alonso, and you have JD Martinez sticking in that 6th spot. So I am kind of curious in terms of what they're thinking of JD Martinez. He's had some very uninspiring swings
Yeah.
from my point of view, really for an extended period of time now. And I know he's a professional hitter. I've had nothing but good things to say about JD Martinez this entire season. And I still think he's going to help this club win games in this 19-game stretch as we inch toward the playoffs. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised to see Jose Iglesias there 5th behind Pete Alonso instead of bumping JD Martinez back up. But like I said, I just need to see these guys perform. Bottom line,
Yeah,
at this point,
exactly.
I need to see these guys perform. I know you're in the same boat, and that's kind of what I'm gonna dumb it down to. Mark Vientos batting in the 2-hole. Obviously, he's had success there as well, but it really seems like Mark Vientos, wherever he bats, is going to find success. So
Yeah.
we can't say for sure exactly what the thought process is of Carlos Mendoza and throwing this kind of lineup out there. But one thing's for sure and 2 things are for certain. They need to put up runs on the board. And I would imagine and I would hope, just with the names and not the type of seasons that these guys are having, but the names of it, right? And what we know these guys are capable of at the top of their game, this lineup can put up runs in a hurry as well. We need to see it. We need to see better at bats from Nimmo and Alonso. But like I mentioned, if the Mets are going to make the playoffs, those 2 guys in the middle of the lineup, wherever they're batting, right? If Nimmo's batting 2nd, if he's batting 5th, it doesn't really matter. He's going to need to produce. And we haven't seen that production yet. So it's kind of just a miracle that the Mets have been able to claw their way back, especially being 4 games out of the wild card just a week and a half ago, all the way back to even for the 3rd wild card spot, given the fact that not all these guys are clicking on all cylinders again. Harrison Bader, even at the bottom of the lineup. Francisco Alvarez, who we've been waiting all season long to get going for an extended period of time. There's 4 guys immediately in this lineup, maybe even 5, that I'm like, looking at my watch here, I'm like, hey, it's September 9th, 2024. I'm not sure if you know this, but it is. It's time to get going. And that's just the bottom line for me.
Yeah, and that's the amazing thing. Like it's not talked about enough, right? Everybody talks about, especially nationally, oh, look at the Mets 9-game winning streak, but they're not talking about Alonso not doing anything, Nimmo not doing it, Alvarez, even Martinez for the most part, right? It is amazing what they're doing. They basically have been relying on Vientos and Lindor and somewhat of Iglesias, and they're pitching, bullpen and starters. That's how they've been winning. And it is amazing because that shouldn't be the case. Like, it's a weird way to win, specifically the way the Mets have been put together here. And the thing that I want to bring up that you just brought up about Martinez, the lack of trust for Martinez. But there's more trust for Nimmo and Alonso than there is Martinez. I'm a little shocked if that's the case with Mendoza. I mean, it's proven that Martinez has been batting, sixth for a while, or fifth or sixth. It's like he's been out of that circle of trust with Mendoza, which is kind of weird, because wouldn't you want a guy that he's proven to do it, right? I know we don't know how Alonso's gonna perform, because we really never seen him have this extended bad streak of hitting with Alonso. Same thing with Nimmo. Nimmo's never had a 2-month stretch when he's been healthy for the last 3 seasons, been this bad for this long. So we don't know how they're gonna break out of it, if they can break out of it. We don't know that. We have not seen it. If they're bad for a week or two and then they break out of it, something that's been normal. But for Alonso for basically a whole season and Nimmo for the last 2 months, I'm a little surprised that he would have confidence in them based on them putting them 3 and 4. Then Martinez batting 6 and been basically behind the 4 spot for the last for about 4 or 5 games now. 4 or 5 games now. I do wonder the lack of trust for JD Martinez. I know he's had bad swings, but Nimmo and Alonso have been just as bad, if not worse. At least Martinez
he's in brutal.
Yeah, and at least Martinez have at least got some RBIs and look, again, Martinez, he'll have one big hit when he's struggling, he'll have one big hit a game. That's the way I've always seen him as a New York Met, and that's been his career. When he's not going well, he'll give you that one really good at bat to drive in a run or get that base runner needed. But the lack of trust is a little weird to me with Martinez. Maybe Martinez is dealing with something we don't know about, and that's why he's lower in the lineup. He's up there in age, 36 years old, so I understand that. But it is kind of weird. But again, they got to do the job, right? How long have we talked about if Alonso's not going well, if Alonso's not doing anything and Nimmo's not doing anything, where is this team really going in the long run this year? Probably not that far, because if you're going to be facing a lot of really good pitchers, specifically if you do get to the playoffs. So they're going to work around Lindor and Vientos and going to work on Nimmo and Alonso, especially if they're still struggling. So it's going to be very interesting. And look, this is the beauty of baseball. This is why we love the game, because you turn on the TV, you have no idea what's going to happen. Because today, Nimmo could go absolutely crazy in Toronto. And then we're like, uh-oh, now we got Nimmo back. So it can happen of a snap of a finger. We just hope it happens very, very soon, because you just looked at your watch. It is September 9th, 2024. You got to get going. Sooner or later, the season's going to end, and you might be watching the playoffs on TV instead of being on the field in a wild card series.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, there's really nothing else to say. It's do or die time. It really is do or die time. I can say this 100 different times on the stream, and it's still going to be the same message. It is do or die time, and they need to perform, and that's really what it is. And like I said, I'm done critiquing the everyday lineups at this point. We can have a conversation, obviously, about JD Martinez and him batting 6th instead of right behind Pete Alonso, like the primary first 3/4 of the season were, right, with Pete Alonso 4 and JD Martinez 5. It doesn't really matter at this point. Let's go out there and score some runs. Personally, I didn't even know that Chris Bassett, did he get scratched? And this is why Ryan Burr, I didn't even know that.
Bring that up. So yeah, Ryan, I don't know what happened, because I checked it this morning and it was Chris Bassett. And I'm like, okay, here we go. We talked about it on the roundtable. We thought it was like, all right, let's bring it on. Let's beat him up, since he destroyed our team in the most 2 important games a couple of years ago. But yeah, Ryan Burr, he has a 4.48 ERA, right? Not very good, right? I think he's actually been a reliever because I've seen he's been in 26 games, but he only has like 1 game started. So I think he's like a long reliever. So this guy might be a bullpen, like an opener. So, the interesting thing with the lineup is Mendoza going to do what he does with the last time we faced an opener, where he would play somebody for like an inning or two, and then somebody off the bench, depending if it's a lefty or a righty, fills in that spot? Because that's going to be interesting as well. Because I don't think Ryan Burr is a guy that can go deep and go 4 or 5 innings. So it's going to be very interesting because look, we know Toronto's out of it, so I don't think they're really trying to I wouldn't say not trying to win a ball game, but I don't know if they're trying to look at this guy and see what he's got or what. But it was kind of weird unless Chris Bassett is felt Solomon got hurt or something like that. But
Yeah, so I just looked at Actually, you know what? I started to cut you off because Fangraphs
yeah,
isn't really reliable because they had Paul Blackburn shifting down in his start when Tylor Megill, the news dropped, and obviously we know he's not going to go in this series. So I just saw Fangraphs and it said Ryan Burr game 1, Chris Bassett game 2, and Bowden Francis in game 3, but that's not accurate. Chris Bassett must have gotten scratched for some reason,
yeah.
and I don't know because the news really hasn't really dropped. Like I said, I was prepared to come into the stream talking about Chris Bassett, but yeah, we just saw an opener right in that Red series, so that's a very valid point.
Yeah, it is interesting. Again, what's up with the sports news today? Like, it's been a lot. It's been a lackluster. Like, I know it's Monday, but Jesus, like, can we get it together a little bit? We're all trying to scramble to see what the hell was wrong with Blackburn and why he wasn't starting today. And then the same thing with Chris Bassett. Like, yo, come on, guys, 19 games in a season, get it together. You're getting paid for this shit. Find out. Sorry, I'm sorry. It annoyed me because we're looking like idiots trying to figure out what the hell's going on, and then 4 hours later we find out what's going on with Blackburn, and then Chris Bassett we still have no idea. I know it's not our problem with Chris Bassett, but it'd be nice to know. But who the hell knows? Oh yeah, James Earl Jones died as well. Interesting. So yeah. Oh, that's my
Yeah, that's unfortunate. R.I.P.
yeah,
Like we mentioned earlier in the stream, Ed Kranepool, and then also R.I.P. to Earl Jones too.
yeah,
Very sad, very unfortunate.
absolutely.
Also, while you were talking, a Blue Jays inside reporter did confirm what Fangraph said. So again, sorry to switch up. This is very hard for us to provide you accurate information when everything's changing up every hour on the hour. But Ryan Burr is starting tonight versus the Mets. Tuesday will be Chris Bassett, and Wednesday will be Bowden Francis. That
Okay.
is what was tweeted out.
So they just switched it up again. Chris Bassett could have just wanted an extra day as well. We know he's done that before with the Mets. So okay, whatever. Again, it's not our. I mean, it's technically our problem, but we'll see. Again, the Mets have an opportunity to win Game 1, the most important game of the series, starting today. Right? Win Game 1. You got 2 opportunities to win the series. And yes, please win the series. Right? Let's not focus on sweeps before we even get there. Win series. It's important. You win series again. You got 19 games to go. You win series, that's an extra 11, 12, like around 10, 11 wins. That's around exactly where you need to be, 88, 89, 90, around that. Chris, I wanted to ask you, what do you think the number is going to be win total wise to make the playoffs for a wild card for the Mets? Say the third wild card.
What they have to reach to get
Yeah,
in?
what's your opinion on that?
With 19 games left to go, shoot. I mean, listen, I know that the Braves and their roster and the lineups that they're throwing out every single day right now don't look the best, right? And I watched and tuned into some of their games, and it seems like they're really struggling with their injuries and whatnot. But I have no doubts that history could repeat itself in terms of the Braves getting out at the right time. So to play it on the safe side with 19 games to go, you're definitely going to have to take like 13 minimum.
So you think it's
13
gonna
and
be? You think it's gonna be like
13,
91?
14. I think let me just put it this way. I think 90. I think 90 is your target goal. I think 90 is the target goal.
Yeah, I agree. So that's 12 more wins. So that's
That's
12 and 7.
minimum, by the way. That's minimum. So like
Well, you know what it is? It could, yeah, it could definitely be that, but I still think it's going to come down to the last series against the Braves, or at least it's going to say a lot about what's going to happen. But
The
again,
Brewers?
the Diamondbacks might fall. Huh? Say that again.
Do the Mets end the season with the Braves or the Brewers?
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I'll actually be most likely at one of those games, by the way, in
Ooh.
Milwaukee. So
Ooh. All right.
I actually
All
I
right.
actually might be there. I still got to
Wait.
secure the travel, but I might be there.
I was gonna say, you've been very successful going to games, especially in Washington. What, you lost once since that time? Yeah.
One
So,
time,
all
yep.
right. So let's get that winning going again. That Milwaukee series, man, might be. Oh man. But look, we know as Mets fans, we're not gonna get as lucky as no matter what win total we get. It could be 92 wins we might get, or be on the verge of getting 92 wins. It's gonna be coming down to that Brave series, because why wouldn't it? We don't get that lucky. We don't get that. Oh, look, we don't have to worry about that series. No, it's going to be a situation where it's either going to be ending up, we need to win that series just for a tie-breaking purposes, or we're going to need it just to get above the Braves and then have 3 games left to go. Like, it's going to be so interesting. And again, the Mets have 13 games before that Brave series, and 7 out of those 13 is against the Phillies. So it's not going to be easy. 12 and 7, like Chris, it's realistic. Why not? They've just won 9 in a row. They're 9-1 in their last 10. They can easily go 12 and 7. It's only 5 games over 500. That's not, it's just above average. So it's possible they can do that. But look, they got to beat a bad Toronto team. I know they've underperformed, but they have a very similar record to the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds are 1 game better than them in the loss column. So Toronto, we know they're dangerous. We know Vlad has been a really good season. We know Toronto's pitching is really good. You got to beat them. You are a better team than them. Chris said this 100 times. There's no more excuses. Win the goddamn ball game by any means necessary. I don't care how you win. Just do it. Just 100% do it. And I'm confident that the Mets are going to be in a position later in the season where they're going to have an opportunity to make the playoffs. That's it. They shocked the world by being in position of a playoff spot basically nearly at the end of the season. Finish the job, because it'll be very disappointing. You played so well and the best team in baseball over the last week and a half, and you don't make the playoffs. Kind of sucks, because they do deserve to make the playoffs, but nobody's going to feel sorry for us if we don't. So do your job, get the job done, Chris. Any final words before we end this stream?
No, I just wanted to talk about, the expectation for Tylor Megill as our final words in terms
Yeah.
of what we're going to expect for him, right? I mean, we're approaching, right, an hour until game time, maybe a little less. Tylor Megill, like we mentioned before, he gets to start today. A setback for Paul Blackburn. He was available out of the bullpen yesterday, according to Carlos Mendoza, but he's going right back into the rotation. Presumably, I thought that if there was no setback to Paul Blackburn, I was confident that this would have been the last start in the rotation, right? If the Mets were playing the matchups game, which I was going to actually be very pissed about if they decided to go ahead and align their rotation for the Philly series, because that goes against everything that we say in terms of taking the appropriate action of what's in front of you, and that is the Toronto series game 1. But nonetheless, that's not what happened. Obviously, we know that Paul Blackburn is feeling some back discomfort, but again, Tylor Megill, you look at his Savant page, there's a very clear distinction about what pitches he's been successful with this season versus what pitches he hasn't been successful with this season, right? The splitter, successful. The sinker, mostly successful. I believe his slider as well, or the curveball, one of those two, also very successful. But the fastball, 4-seam that is, when it goes straight, has been borderline. He's been pretty average, but his worst pitch is the cutter. So I'm curious to see the pitch mixes that he decides to throw today as well, because he's got a very vast arsenal. A lot of people forget about that, especially with the new pitch that he developed. So again, that's kind of what I'm looking out of from Tylor Megill. 5 competitive innings, dominate and throw the splitter as much as necessary to put this, I guess, streaky Toronto Blue Jays lineup away, right? We know that they've got some guys that have caught a hot streak. They could be dangerous. Again, you've been preaching to the choir about Toronto being not overlooking Toronto, so to speak, right? Despite their record, we've been saying that. So we'll talk about it on the post game today. I'll set up the post-game stream here. I know that you can't make it, Rob, unfortunately, but I will be live with John from Pure Adrenaline Sports. We'll be doing another collaboration for the post-game. We'll set that up here just shortly, right after the game, right after the final out. It might take a couple minutes to buffer to get the slides uploaded and whatnot, as it usually does, but we will be live for the post-game. So tune in there. And as always, we appreciate the support. It means a lot. I think these pre-games have been getting a little bit more serious, right? When we have come to a situation where the Mets are fighting every single day to remain in this playoff race. And we appreciate you all being here and supporting us. Please hit the thumbs up, not only on my stream at CPNY Sports, but also on Rob's. It helps us out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't done so already to both channels, right? Because there are going to be videos that we're going to release that are standalone. Obviously, we do all these streams together, but if Rob can't make it for a post game, I'll be live for a post game and vice versa. If I can't make a post game or a pregame, Rob will be live as well. So I think it's very important. And keep rocking with us because we got you guys covered for the rest of the way.
Absolutely. And listen, we got the pregame. Look, the pregame's growing. And, it started slow early on. The Mets were bad. It was not going well. And because of you guys, it's grown. And it's only going to grow even more by the end of the season. So with that said, guys, thank you for tuning in to the Amazing Mets pregame show. Hit that like button before you go if you haven't. And subscribe to both channels. And hopefully Chris and John are talking about a Mets win on the post game later tonight. With that said, have a great day, guys. Let's go Mets. And those guys will see you later tonight. Have a great night, guys. Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life because the Mets are